Excellent. Shall we roll into this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let's get it started. All right. Let's ride. Boom, it's Hot Mike. I got Kyle Eason in the studio this evening. Kyle, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
This feels like a special episode, a reunion episode of the podcast. You and I are old friends, and we haven't seen each other in, I think, 11 years.
Wow. It doesn't seem that long in some ways.
Yeah. It's incredible.
In other ways, it seems like a long time. Yeah.
Well, being back with you and seeing you again and having a conversation with you downstairs before getting into it, it just feels like old times. Yeah. I don't feel like there's a decade in between.
That's right.
The last time we hung out.
Yeah, and I've been apprised of your life in different ways through your brother, and just trying to follow you in any way I can, see what you're up to. And I know you've got a lot of interesting stories, so we're going to get right into it.
Well, I'm so glad that we have reconnected. Kyle and I, for background, we met and made a film together, a short film in 2009. Mm-hmm. And it was called Rob Banks, and you were my producer.
That's right, yeah.
And it's a project I'm very proud of.
There's a lot to be proud of, for sure. It's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah. I actually recently had a filmmaker on the podcast, a friend named Dylan Cole, and I mentioned that I'd made a short film. He wasn't aware of it. I have taken a big step back from filmmaking, and so he didn't know me as a filmmaker, and he was fascinated and asked me all these questions, and I was kind of taken off guard. I was like, I haven't talked about the film in so many years. I got to remember the plot. I got to remember the experience itself. And he was like, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
And so we watched it after we wrapped the podcast.
Yeah.
And he was so complimentary.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed. Like, I had not seen it in many years. And I was like, oh my God, we did that. We did that.
Yeah.
We did this. And I was like, and they worked. The things worked. We had vision. We put a plan together.
Yeah.
And it was a success for as small a film as it was.
It was, for sure. Mm-hmm.
And it was that was a good learning experience.
Oh,
and it was so cool to bring you on board, because you were passionate about making a movie. And it was like, oh, this is my guy. I can't find anybody who's willing to volunteer their time and really put so much effort into it. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was a great opportunity for me. I had a little bit of experience. Let's see, what was the year actually when we produced?
I think it was 2009.
2009. So that had happened. I would say just as I was having some experience in politics with a few political commercials.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I had met some techs, like a sound tech and other techs. And, through the years, they would call me up and say, hey, Kyle, why don't you come by and do craft services or, be a PA here. And so, as is the case, I think, with a lot of people who get into film, they end up just playing a lot of different roles. And, I'm craft services, but I'm also blocking the light and holding mics and helping set up and take down. And it was, I've had some great experiences that introduced me to a lot of really interesting people, including some very successful producers with whom I'm still in touch today. And I think a lot of times you meet certain personalities like your own that you really resonate with, and you just maintain that relationship over the years. And people come in and out of your life over time. And I think of the experience with Rob Banks was just a great early experience for me to sort of test things out and just play every role that I can possibly play, and help the baby to be born.
Yeah, to say you were the producer was one of your titles. That was one of many. Like, that's what went into the credits. But you also were like chief marketing manager of the film. You were helping secure the venue for
Yeah,
the
that's right.
premiere and everything. Yeah, you were
pushed
really
hard. Yeah,
it was
I did
great.
push hard. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We got a little bit of press. I think there was some a little. I was really pushing hard, trying to reach whoever I could, even including the Denver Post. I think the Denver Post film reviewer.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I think we had mixed luck with some of that, but we did get a few placements on a few sites that I think were interesting too. In terms of press.
It's not up online anywhere,
Not
but
anymore,
I feel like now that this podcast has started, and I've talked about it multiple times on Hot Mic, that I feel like I need to put it up there and get it out there.
Mm-hmm. You could easily create a few pages. As a matter of fact, you could do that through my site or who knows what. Like a little sub page or two. Mm-hmm. Be easy to do now. I mean, it's so easy to get a nice, decent, free website. It's amazing.
I'm remembering a story from set of Rob Banks, a location site. I want to see if you remember.
Okay.
We drove all the way out to our location, which was Eastern Colorado.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be. It was acting as Nebraska.
Yeah.
Like that's what we needed was flatlands. We needed expansive view. Yeah. And I mean, we were 90 minutes outside of Denver, something like that. Yeah, we get out there and we're getting all set up. And for our main actor, I'd forgotten his wardrobe.
Was this for Chris?
This was for Chris.
Yeah.
This was for Chris Waters. And he had a 3-piece suit that I had left hanging in my closet and had to drive all the way back while the whole cast and crew just sat tight.
Oh, yeah.
While I made the like 3-hour round trip to go back and forth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was cursing myself out in the car. I felt so bad that I dragged everyone out there on a Saturday and they're just like, oh my, I missed one thing.
Yeah.
I needed, but that's the same thing. Like you were wearing all the hats. Yeah. And I was wearing all the other hats. Yeah. And we trade off sometimes.
We did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's hard to keep it all, on track, but that's what you do. And that's why you lean on your documents and other things, checklists and things like that help. But, that's, I think one thing that people don't realize is if you're a producer in film or television, it's pretty much project management and, can apply to many different industries in that regard. Yeah. Just organizing things and checking things off and being detail oriented, knowing the processes that are involved with the different roles and trusting people to do their job. Yeah. But if they're not doing the job, you need to know, you need to be able to recognize that.
Absolutely.
But then having sort of that loose hand or easy hand, to kind of let them do their thing. Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the name of your talk show that you produced and hosted?
Produced, hosted, edited.
Edited?
Yeah. First one was called The Kick.
Okay.
And I think that what were the dates for The Kick? Maybe 2015, 16, something like that. Mm-hmm. And the other was called The Juice.
Oh, yeah.
And the Juice, similar idea. Both were all about kind of citywide, regional, statewide, sometimes national leaders who we thought would, have an audience of their own, for instance. This is sort of the meta strategy. And would also be interesting to interview. And, our purpose in doing the show originally was to, because I was working for a production company, was to try to find ways to bring in business, for the production company. And we thought this was an interesting idea and something we'd enjoy doing and had all the equipment to do. So we launched into it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's that's a pretty good run on each of those.
Yeah. We did about 10 episodes each
for the Kick and Juice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and most of them got produced and finished, but some of the episodes for the Juice are still unfinished. But most did get finished and published online, and we didn't have a budget to support them.
Okay.
So it was all just what we could do on our own. But some have gotten a few hundred views here and there, and usually I was surprised by the level of audience, because you wouldn't have thousands or hundreds of thousands of views, but the actual audience was sometimes, I think I noticed, similar to the level of the guest oftentimes.
Okay.
So there might be leaders that are watching. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And now I watched some episodes of The Juice. I haven't seen The Kick. Were you producing these out of the same studio?
Yes, with Mile High House Video Production. That's Tom Hoke Jr. And Tom is now with the Public Works, and he's head of production there. And the Public Works is just an amazing place. They do a lot of really interesting things, from fabrication of physical installations that you might have at a conference, or the top of a mountain for Smirnoff vodka, or they might do a shoot for Jeep or Airstream. Wow. Really just have their choice of clients in many ways, and it's always clients that have this kind of outdoor lifestyle or sort of similar ethic, and just really cool, interesting clients. So to get back to your question, Tom was my production guy for both The Kick and The Juice, and he had just some amazing cameras. Sony FS7, at one time a $20,000 camera, and kind of the standard, but probably now may not be the standard camera, but a very high-end camera.
Yeah, better than these.
Yeah, it's a good camera. It's a little bigger. A lot of cameras now are about that size.
Yeah,
it's amazing how they've just gotten smaller and smaller, and the cameras are just amazing. Like, what is it? The A7S, I think, Sony A7S. Very small, like a deck of cards, small.
Oh, that's incredible.
But it's a very good camera, and you put that on like a small gimbal. It's just amazing what it can do. But we had the Sony FS7, and then we used, that was the only camera we used for The Kick and The Juice, and then just mic'd up with a couple of lavalier mics, and had usually some lights, and we would go in Battery 621, which is 621 Calumet in Denver, right near the Santa Fe Arts District, if you know the Santa Fe First Friday Art Walk.
Okay.
It was near there. And that area used to be, I would guess, technically considered, a term they used to use in the city parlance was blighted or something like that, sort of a troubled area. And they were one of the first to come in there and start a business. And that's Frank Phillips, I think, and the now the owners of Battery, Frank Phillips and Mike Art. I think his name is pronounced Art, A-R-Z-T.
Oh, okay.
And they now own Battery. They owned it in part at the time, and were early investors in that neighborhood. And in fact, Mayor Hancock had, I think, one of his early kickoffs, if not his first kickoff there at Battery 621, to kind of stake his claim to rejuvenating some of the areas in Denver that needed help at the time.
Oh, that's great.
That was long before the sort of 2008, hockey stick for the city.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's a long story to tell you. Yeah, he was my main guy. Tom Hoke. Yeah. Thanks to Tom.
Nice. Shout out Tom Hoke. Do you still keep, like, I can tell you keep up with the technology of, like, being a producer. That's an important thing to know where that's something I've never been able to. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm more on the creative side of the filmmaking, where I'll talk to somebody and they'll tell me all the cameras that they've used. I'm like, I don't know. you put the tool in my hand and I'll try and tell a story with it.
Yeah.
Do you still keep up with tech and how it's changing?
Not as much now because I just haven't done a lot of production recently. I've been more of a script writer recently. I have done that.
Ooh.
Tom's occasionally called me to write scripts, and I've done a few of those, and I really love that kind of work. The actual being on set and producing, haven't done as much of that because I just haven't had the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, I do have a show in development that I'm working on with a producer that I worked with. Again, here's another example of someone that I worked with in 2015.
Yeah.
I did a couple of comedy spots where I was the coordinating producer for Pepsi.
Yeah.
Was doing some online web-based comedy shows, so that would appear during halftime of Super Bowl 50.
Okay.
Yeah, these were so much fun, and we had some national level talent comedians coming in. Paul Scheer.
Oh yeah.
And Rob Hubel.
Both
yeah. Just very funny guys.
Uh-huh.
They came in, and then we had, excuse me, Tim. I think it's. Oh gosh, I'm going to mess up his name. Kapalnik. Tim Kapalnik. I may or may not be right. We can check on that, but he was in one of the spots, and then he had a partner in his other spot. So, at any rate, I was the coordinating producer and getting all the permissions and the insurance and the parking and everything else. And Tom was, I think, the producer of the Denver spot, and I was helping to coordinate both Denver and Breckenridge. And then one director, John Bourbonnais, was up in Breckenridge.
Uh-huh.
And he did a fantastic job, of course, as he always did. And Cole Norville directed here in Denver. And Cole had worked with Motive Agency in Denver.
Okay.
And I think that might have been his first year with Motive. I'm not sure. But he had already had a measure of success before that and was brought in to direct. And he just knew what he was doing. He was just so cool and collected. And just, I could tell, really feet on the ground. So I'm just watching, observing him as I'm doing my, coordinating producer role.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually, I stayed in touch with him kind of loosely over the years. And then recently I reached out to him and said, hey, I've got some ideas I want to discuss and see if you want to collaborate, because I just like your style and just want to see if there's something we could get going. And he said, yeah, I like that idea right there.
Ooh.
And let's go back and forth. So we've been talking back and forth on this idea for a couple of months, and today had another discussion about it. And I think it's starting to kind of take shape where it can be pitched, as a show. And he's got a lot of great connections, and we're just kind of discussing, putting that all together and hopefully see if we can get some funding and support for it. So,
wow, that's exciting, Kyle.
Yeah, I know. I'm pumped.
Has he done work in episodics?
Yeah, he's done, well, when you say episodics, I know he kind of specializes a little bit in reality television.
Okay.
And he did a 6-part, I think it was a 6-part series on the water crisis in California with Tom Steyer, if you remember Tom Steyer.
I do, yeah.
Candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tom Steyer supported the production of that. And he's worked with a ton of big names, more than I even realized. He's just so soft-spoken, He's from Kentucky. He's down to earth guy, and but he's worked with Ben Stiller, and he's good friends with T.J. Miller. I think helped T.J. Miller get his start, and some other. He's really close to a lot of comedians. That tells you about him a little bit. I think he's just a funny guy, and self-deprecating, and just sort of unassuming, But yeah, a little bit of work there, and trying to think of some of his other shows. A lot of commercials.
Okay.
And I know he's working on one now for a national food chain, fast food chain. And what else? Trying to think of some of his projects in the background. But anyway, that's kind of what he's done.
That's so cool that he's kind of in his circle are these legendary comedians.
Yeah.
I love
He
T.J.
does
Miller.
have a lot of connections.
That's really cool.
You know a guy named, have you heard of a comedian named, I think it's Jordan Carlos?
I can't picture Jordan Carlos.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Where would you have seen him? There would be a few shows that you probably would know about, but at any rate, he's just a super funny kind of up and coming kind of comedian.
You have to show me him later.
Yeah, I will.
I'm very interested, and I am definitely a comedy nerd.
Yeah,
and I was so fortunate when I lived in L.A. For a couple of years, and when over the course of probably 3 years, I was there for a year and a half. Does that make sense?
Because you were traveling.
Because I was going back and forth. So you put them all those months together, I was there for about a year and a half.
And when was this? What?
This would have been between 2012 and 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And within that time, I had spent, a good chunk of time, kind of got a group of friends there.
Yeah.
And of course, like, everyone's going after a creative endeavor when you're in LA.
Right.
Everybody is like, I'm serving tables. I'm serving you your burger right now, but I want you to know I'm also a producer / choreographer.
And they're usually very out with it, very open. Okay.
Yeah. And they wear it on their sleeves.
Yeah, I guess they have to be.
Yeah.
They're trying to be
discovered.
They're trying to get every advantage they can get.
Absolutely. I don't fault them at all.
Yeah.
That is the environment that they're living in. And God bless them.
Yeah.
But I got to meet, so I was working in different film festivals, and we're working production, and I meet people who are like actors, comedians, and they're going to auditions every other week. And it was kind of heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah.
Just the amount of disappointment you'd see in somebody's year, because there's so much that's tied into other people's approval,
right?
That it's really hard to hang your hat on any accomplishment when you've got this mountain of what you see as failure and rejection.
Right.
And one part of it that was very hard to see was when somebody would succeed and get a part, even if it's a bit part on a sitcom or something like that, the hate that they would get from the rest of the community. Not outward, but it's basically their success equals my failure.
Is that Schadenfreude?
Yes, Schadenfreude, right?
Schadenfreude.
Yeah. Did I add an extra syllable?
You might have added Schadenfreude.
I tend to do that.
I think it is Schadenfreude. I could
Schadenfreude.
be wrong, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just like giving
What
extra.
does it mean, though, if you break that down?
It is
like,
the pleasure in others' pain. So it's almost a reverse of that. It's pain for someone else's pleasure. Like, they're getting success. But it was just unfortunate to that industry, the entertainment industry, is that there is, which I think we're moving away from now, where content creators they're driving their, I guess the demand is out there, and it's no longer controlled by studios as far as what content you can put out there. There's no say on what we talk about on this podcast. There's no producer, there's no company that's saying, no, you guys got to stay within the lines.
Not even New Belgium.
Someday.
Ladies and gentlemen. Future Hop.
Now they'll never pay. You're giving it to them for free. But I got a little sidetracked. Comedians were some of my favorite people to hang out with, and I lived with a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I got to go see them at the Comedy Store.
Okay.
And I'd get to sit in the back of the Comedy Store, and legendary comedian. I mean, I'm not sitting at the table, but I'm sitting near them. I'm eavesdropping. I'm watching people work on their sets, and I was a fan of comedy.
Yeah.
But like a tenuous fan. Like, I was like, oh yeah, that guy's funny. Like, yeah, I know Eddie Murphy Raw. That's a great VHS. But I didn't know comedy. But that, like, I became kind of obsessed with the art form,
Uh-huh.
and seeing people week after week, and you're like, oh, that joke got better.
But as
Like,
a fan or
yeah.
an analyst, maybe
Yeah,
in some ways, it sounds like
a bit.
Is that right?
Well, with my friends, they trusted me enough to like do a bit for me at home, and I would help them punch it up a little bit.
Nice.
I mean, I'm giving
Were you
myself.
a comedy coach?
I was a comedy coach. I need to put that.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I'm giving myself way too much credit, but there were times where I was like, excellent premise. Just come at it from a different angle because it's funnier. Like, it's funnier when you get mad about the subject. So don't go along agreeing with it.
Yeah.
As a friend and a fan of yours, it's funnier when you're mad at something. Or so I'd give some guidance around that. But ultimately, they were the ones doing the hard work and actually going up there, being completely exposed and vulnerable.
You're too humble. You are the comedy coach.
It is one of my favorite performance art forms. And I just love that you go out there with just a microphone and yourself.
Yeah. Lots of courage. Yeah. It's a lot of vulnerability. Have an old friend who decided to go make a career in comedy. And he's in New York, did it in New York. And I see him now and then posting, and I think he's doing real well. He's funny. He's always been funny. And he was a part of our theater troupe, amateur theater troupe.
Okay.
Actually, that Brendan was a part of. And did you ever see our plays?
I saw a video
The
of one
Romero
of the
troupe.
Yes, absolutely. That I think it might be how I was introduced to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Brendan, my brother,
Yeah.
your old friend, and current friend,
Yeah.
he was connecting us because I was struggling to get Rob Banks off the ground, and I needed somebody else to help and champion my vision.
Yeah.
And he said that he knew a guy who was really passionate and
Lots
could
of
be
enthusiasm.
Yeah, and I don't think he told you much about the project or anything, but I think he showed me a video where he's like, there's Kyle. That's him pouring his soul out on stage. I was like, cool. This guy's into it. And then we met and had kind of a first date type thing.
Yeah.
And I put out the project and you were like, yeah, that sounds fun. I'm in. Let's do it. So, yeah, tell me more about this acting troupe.
Oh, the Romero troupe. Yeah. Now, that was started by Jim Walsh. He's a professor of history.
I remember Jim.
He's a professor of history, I think, appointed now primarily at CU Colorado.
Okay.
In Denver, CU Denver, I should say. And he's actually in the political science department now.
Okay.
I think he started in the history department but moved over in political science. But he does some really interesting stuff in his classes and usually involves a lot of student theater, basically, and encouraging students to do something more than just write papers. They'll be participants in some way. And he has, as a project that it's just sort of ongoing. I think they may even be a nonprofit at this point. I'm not sure, but they're called the Romero Troupe. And at the time, this was just beginning. I think he had been doing that in his classes for a year or two, but it was also kind of a community theater. I think still is. And Jim got me involved and Brendan involved. I think Jim was teaching at Regis University at the time. And so we had a real interesting group of people. Of course, Regis University attracts often a very community-minded person, student, and all of my interactions with Regis have always been, I've just been very impressed by the way they are community-oriented. Everyone from the coaches of the sports teams who are very out in the communities doing work to just their their work in Denver with various underserved groups and things like this. And I think it stems from this Jesuit tradition that they have. So you have to give them a lot of credit. But at any rate, so we were in that community and performing, I think initially some kind of a play about Archbishop Romero from
Oscar Romero.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oscar Romero from was it Nicaragua?
El Salvador.
El Salvador.
Mhm.
And you know, it's just something that was really inspiring for us, and everybody just found their own way into it,
Yeah.
and it just had a certain magic to it. It wasn't just about the production; it was about creating the production, so the rehearsals and putting the whole thing together.
Yeah.
And when I say magic, it's just something about when people start to open their hearts and to dedicate themselves to a shared purpose and expand their idea of their own talents, what they might have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
New things emerge. It surprises people. The energy is good. It's positive. It's I almost said the word holy because it's just something special, you know, that comes out of everyone when they dedicate themselves and open themselves up to this kind of experience.
Yeah.
This reminds me of one thing of the show that's in development right now.
Okay.
Because part of what we want to do, I can talk more about this later, but
Sure.
is to help people to reveal their pain, reveal what they're hurting about, reveal what they're scared of, what are their fears. And in this way, we hope to contribute something to the healing of the nation, basically.
Wow.
That's our idea, is that maybe by nudging things just a little bit, maybe opening up that arc of change, we can help bring something that is so needed. Everyone I'm talking to is saying, yeah, we really need this. Look at the countries in trouble, and we're just kind of in this lull, I think, before the storm hits again. I don't want to get too political, but the show itself, we're trying not to be political, but to be psychological.
Okay.
And so when I talk about revealing your fears and having this magic moment that comes out, that's what I hope happens, I guess, in some ways. But I hadn't made that connection before now.
Oh, Kyle, I love that. And I love that encouraging people to confront pain points, insecurities.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the age of social media where the tradition is to put your I'm living my best life. Right. And everyone puts that's what they put out there.
That's right.
As I want you to see me I'm all smiles, nothing but success here. Yeah, I've got no pain in my life. I have zero insecurity around anything.
Yeah.
And none of that feels good or natural to me.
Right.
But I find myself doing it as well.
Yeah.
I find myself doing it with this podcast where I'm like, I gotta be all together. I gotta, even for my guests, especially for my guests. If people take time to come in here and have a conversation with me, I want you to just think I'm the best producer and host and everything. And it's like, no, I'm terrified that I suck at this thing. And I think so many people walk through life either fears, pain. That this sounds like a really, really important thing, like you said, for the nation. Yeah, like that this could really be beneficial to people in all walks of life who are struggling, languishing.
Yeah. I hope so. And we're dreaming big. You know, we're letting it go as big as it can go. You know, I've been around a few years, and I have some great connections, great people, and I'm not above calling them in and, you know, calling the chips in.
Yeah.
Saying, we need some help here, or what can you contribute? And it may or may not be what you think it's going to be, you know. So it's going to be really exciting and interesting when that starts to develop some momentum. But to your point about vulnerability and pain and fear, I think it was Carl Jung, one of my heroes, who said that, you know, if you have two perfect people that come together, there's no point of connection. You know, there needs to be vulnerability, and people bond over that kind of vulnerability. So in some ways, you become more beloved by your audience, the more vulnerable you can be. And it's frightening, you know, for people But they see that point of connection because everybody knows, most people know, unless you're sort of megalomaniac, you do have those points of vulnerability. And when you come to grips with that, it's a really good place to start moving forward and to make some progress. And it just really bonds people together, especially when you're watching someone through a camera or listening on a microphone or speaker, and or seeing something on social media. I think those are the moments that can really bond people. And I think immediately of a guy named Tim Denning, Tim Denning, who's a kind of a thought leader, social media leader especially on LinkedIn.
Okay.
He's, I think, Australian, and he often will tell his story of redemption. And I'm not sure if he was an addict or just kind of just down and out and had sort of hit a low spot, and then just started, to hope for something better and just act.
Yeah.
And slowly he built himself an audience on social media, and now he has hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, and he's just very good at being vulnerable, I think, in some ways. I think also of a guy named, I'm not going to get his last name right. Is it Hodgson? Ryan Hodgson. I think he might also be Australian. And he's kind of a traveler, social media personality who also, I think, is good at being vulnerable. And just ends up adding a lot of value on social media, and partly because he's not ever that far from the vulnerability, if you know what I'm saying.
That's great.
He's good.
We don't think of that as a skill, but like what you're saying about how important it is to connection with people. When people are being strong for everybody, and I am totally put together. Yeah. For one, it's incredibly difficult to connect with that, and it probably puts other people on the defense, and they're not willing to open up and be vulnerable. So I see it as a powerful tool and skill set to be able to have that vulnerability when connecting with people. And I don't know that it is encouraged. So I think it's great that is an angle or a direction that maybe a purpose for the show that you're writing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't really made that connection. I think, how did I come up with that idea? I think it was just that, to be honest with you, I knew that the show was about the fact that we, as a nation, people are afraid. And the sort of, you might say, bad behavior that we're seeing in some ways, in the nation, where people are either breaking laws or behaving badly or behaving in ways that seem undemocratic, or just aren't. There are ways that we haven't seen people behave in a long time. And, some would say even going back to the Civil War. Yeah. It's shocking. This is what, 160 years ago. You're seeing people talk about Civil War. You're seeing people talk about violence. If it's not a Civil War, it's a violent outbreak or something like that. It's amazing to me what you're seeing in the news right now. In the Atlantic, for instance, a new article came out saying, okay, hey, folks, this is not a one-off. This kind of insurrection is going to happen again. Yeah. And President Trump is going to run again. There's no question about it. So, looking back to the origins of this show, I knew that, President Trump got 74 million plus votes last election, and that's a lot of people and a lot of very good people. Yeah. And so you look at that and you say, okay, there's something that doesn't quite compute here. Now, there are many complex reasons for why folks might support President Trump, but I felt like there was something that folks might be just very afraid of that is far worse than any behavior, any misbehavior of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid of something. They're hurting. They're in pain about something, and it's very real.
Yeah.
And we need to take that seriously if we're concerned about some of the other behaviors of Donald Trump, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see people taking that seriously.
Yeah.
I didn't see the culture, and certainly not the media, primarily mostly liberal, just because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I didn't see them taking that seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to not to necessarily preach to someone or tell them what I think needs to happen. I wanted them to reveal it. So that's a long way of answering your question, long-winded way. But that made me feel like we need them to feel safe to reveal these feelings of pain, of fear. And how are we going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we try to put this into sort of human experiments that we're developing to watch people in vulnerable situations, because it has to be interesting, entertaining on screen.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where that came from. But now I see the connection with the Romero True.
Wow.
And the sort of vulnerability, the magic comes from that vulnerability.
Okay.
And people see new things in themselves they didn't see before, as opposed to this constant gridlock, this partisan gridlock that we have. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. And I like the way you put that, and it's actually a very refreshing opinion, because I think we're so bipartisan that those who voted this way are, I can now completely judge you and put you into a box, and the other side can do the same to you, rather than say this is a huge part of our population that are not bad people.
Right. Exactly.
You might not agree with them,
right?
But since when was that the marker for us living in civil society?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and I've always thought, we used to work in politics about 8 years straight, exclusively in politics, and I ended up doing work in communications and speech writing and ghost writing, which I love doing because it was so creative, get into the skin of whoever you're writing for.
Ooh, that's fun.
But one of my lessons from that experience was, wow, the people's value lies far below their political views.
Yeah.
People are oftentimes trying to, and I think mistakenly, trying to work out their personal issues, problems, fears, whatever, in a political sphere. And that's just like chasing your shadow. You're just never going to catch it. So I've known that for a long time. And this is kind of like, what's the term? Squaring the circle? Is that what it is? I'm not sure what that term is. I probably have that wrong. But it's like things are coming full circle.
Okay.
Things are coming full circle in my life in some ways over this show. And I'm really enjoying that ride, because it's like, wow, all these different people in my life that I've met over the years, I'm pulling them in. I'm saying, hey, what do you think? What do you think of this show? And what I'm hearing from a lot of people is it's really needed, and we need that big time. And I feel like that's what it takes, knock on wood, to have something successful. You have to be out ahead a little bit, but not too far ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too far that people aren't ready for it.
No.
But it sounds like it's needed and timely.
I hope so.
Now, is this like narrative form? Like,
I would say it's really like a docu-reality show.
Okay.
In some ways, it's definitely going to have these sort of moments where we don't know where it's going to go.
Oh, cool.
It's unscripted entirely.
Okay.
And we're also going to have, I'm thinking, some comedians, because Cole is so close to that community. And some sort of thought leaders that will help to kind of add a different perspective and maybe put them in sort of situations that they're not familiar with, but they're up for it, And so hopefully that will be their own period, maybe their own experience of discovery and vulnerability. That's going to be the real trick. That gets me thinking about it. How do you put someone like that who's totally polished, maybe have a national profile.
Yeah.
How do you get them into a position of vulnerability where they're even going to surprise themselves? I hope that we have something like that.
God, that sounds. I mean, the potential sounds great, Kyle.
I hope so.
And I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Now I'm curious on your experience with Romero Troupe.
Yeah.
Was this the first time you had felt this? Had you been involved with like theater in high school or anything like that?
That's a good question. I had always been involved with performance of some kind or another. I think just being a young, choir singer, let's say in church, probably first of all, and then as I grew older, I had a pastor who took an interest in me and a friend of mine who also was a good singer, and we developed a gospel duet. Wow. And we would sing around the state, and that was a great experience. And then joined choir in high school, and I was in a few performances that way. Really enjoyed that. Had a great high school choir director, Mr. Netzel, was amazing. He was just so much fun. And just you almost never knew exactly what was going to come out of him, but he also had high standards and wanted you to do well, expected you to do well. And that was a thrill, to be a part of something, almost anything where you are pursuing excellence together, and people expect the best. They want you to give your best. They know you're going to make mistakes, but you're always going to try for that.
Yeah.
There's something special about that too, which played into the Romero Troupe and those kind of performances.
Boy, that's a life lesson in itself. Is you're always going to make mistakes, and we're not looking for perfection. We just want your best.
Yeah.
And your best may look a little different on each night, but we want to strive for that.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson for life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Continuous improvement. Yeah. It makes me think of a quartet that we had in high school, and we ended up winning a statewide award. I think it was called All State at the time back in Iowa, where I grew up. And these guys, I don't know, we just had it. We had that kind of, we gelled together. One of the guys was a piano player, and I think the song we sang was "Do You Feel the Force of the Wind?" And it was a interesting quartet piece. It wasn't barbershop quartet. It was more traditional in some ways, almost like a seafaring song is what it felt like. And anyway, just
that sounds like fun.
The pursuit of excellence, that was almost one of those golden moments where you're like, wow, we've got it. We got this down, and you may not have it ever again. You probably didn't have it before, but there you got it, for a few weeks. You've prepared and you're ready to roll. And that's a pretty exciting experience. Probably more akin to maybe theater than film or television, because there's just those moments in theater where you come together and that's it. It's gone.
Yeah.
Film's different. Television's different.
True. And I want to actually connect it to film and something that Jeff Bridges talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And his experience on set. He was talking about how each cast and crew and top executives and everything, like each project has it's a completely new community of people that's trying to bring this vision and tell this story to an audience.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he had, like, you have good experiences and you have bad. You have ones where everybody is just on the same page, on the same frequency, and it's gelling, and it's just an absolute delight. And there's some that you're just like, I can't quite make this work, and my co-stars, we don't really connect, and I can tell that the crew hasn't worked long with each other, and they're getting at each other, and they don't have a shorthand or anything.
Yeah.
But he found he saw it as a reoccurring issue, and I've actually heard other actors talk about working with him, that he is somebody that he kind of wants to hack that a little bit. And what he does is he gets to know everybody.
Yeah.
And I've truly heard people who have worked with him. He will, by the end of the first week, he will know your name. And this is if you are a key grip.
Wow.
If you are like an assistant in catering, or like he is in craft services. This is the dude.
You're talking about the dude here.
Yeah. And he is a legend on screen and off. And
that's amazing.
And a gentleman.
I love that. Yeah.
And
he's
truly,
fighting cancer now.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think I heard that. I don't know what kind, but yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely in a fight for his life, I think, right now.
Oh man. Well, that's hard to hear.
Yeah.
Strikes and gutters.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, and I was very fortunate to get to work with Ed Harris.
Yeah, man, another good one.
He was incredible at meeting and knowing everybody.
Wow.
Now, I worked with him at the Sundance Summer Labs.
Mm-hmm.
So these were film sets, but they were films that were being workshopped.
Yeah.
My favorite example of the Summer Labs, which is long before I ever participated, was Quentin Tarantino submitted Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, man.
And he got accepted in 1990 and went and workshopped it.
Mm-hmm.
And got to work with Steve Buscemi. And
Wow.
Steve was like, whenever you make this project, I'm in. Like, you can pay me peanuts. I am in. And he's the one. So it's all about, and you bring your kind of your worst stuff. We don't want you to show us off your best scenes. We want to see the scenes that you're really struggling with, because you're surrounded by all this talent.
Right.
So that's what the Summer Labs are. It's a workshop for a screenplay that has tremendous potential, or a filmmaker that has tremendous potential, to come and get better, hone their skill, and work with true veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Which they act as advisors. That's what Ed Harris was doing.
Wow.
And so he was working with many different filmmakers, and he'd go to set and he would work with them. But it wasn't just, it's me and the director. Like, it was, I want to know the lighting guy. And I'm a logistics guy.
Right.
And he made sure to get to know me. And now I don't know that he would anymore, but at a time he would have known my parents' names.
Yeah.
He would have known my brother's name. He would have known where my brother lived and what he did, because he was curious and asked questions.
Yeah.
He also loved to. He'd see me. We worked in a yurt, which was the coolest office I've ever had.
Where was this at?
This is at the Sundance Institute at the Sundance Resort in Utah.
In Park City, Utah?
Just outside of Park City.
Outside.
It's in a box canyon. So by way the crow flies, you're only like 20 miles from Park City. But for the roadway, you're about an hour away. Like, you got to kind of take these routes around Heber Valley and stuff like that to get to Park City.
Right.
They're close, geographically close. And it's this beautiful box canyon. If you're at the resort, you're there to be at the resort. There's no passing through this. It's like, this is a destination spot.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, it's magical, and I feel eternally grateful that I got to work there for the time that I did. And the people that I got to meet, including Ed Harris, who was such a fascinating guy. So a true, like, this is something that I tell people, is like, he always plays these like really masculine roles. Tough guys, like also like alpha male kind of stuff. He is a true artist and thespian. And he's as crazy as any other actor who can just cry on command, which I think you got to be a little nuts to be able to do that.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
That's
a
but
tough one.
He would come into the yurt, because we had good like coffee and snacks and stuff. Yeah. But he would see that I was really stressed, and I was in logistics, as I said. I was the transportation manager, and I'm coordinating people's flights in and out. And the resort is about 100 miles away from the Salt Lake airport, so I have to coordinate ground transportation. Anyways, a lot of moving parts, and it was very stressful.
Yeah.
He would see that, and he'd come over with this vice grip hand, and he'd start massaging my shoulders, and I'd just be like, a little less, Ed. But he was like, you look like you could use a catch. and we'd go outside with baseball gloves, and
Yeah.
we'd throw the ball for 10, 15 minutes.
Wow.
And we never talked about like work. As hard as it was,
Yeah.
we never talked about his movies because I would have
that
loved
would
to
be-
completely nerd out about like, tell me about the Abyss.
Yeah,
I want to hear how nightmarish this experience was. No, we never did that. Honestly, all we talked about was baseball. He would,
Just
and it
in the
wasn't
moment.
about
Yeah.
like whose team is in the lead and like they're down to. It was like just how beautiful baseball was. Like he
Yeah.
really saw it as like this spiritual game. I mean, it was very like Field of Dreams kind of thing.
Interesting.
But
I didn't know that about him.
yeah, he was a fascinating guy. He always, so I never had anything to do with his transportation because he would always drive in.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't figure it out my first year there. I was like, wait, Ed Harris is going to be here, but he doesn't want to, like, we fly everyone in. Like, everything's covered.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, they're like, no. He's going to bring in his own weed. Like, he's like, he
Nice.
can't, that's why he doesn't fly.
Credit.
Yeah.
Kudos. Kudos.
Well, and I would always, like, I'd get phone calls throughout the day, and I'd leave the cafeteria trying to find some privacy so I can have this phone call or
Yeah.
organize, coordinate. And a couple of times I would catch him. Well, I say catch him. I would find him behind like a building, just smoking a joint
Yeah.
or whatever. And he would kind of acknowledge you and then just kind of walk away.
Yeah.
And I realized after a while, he wasn't sneaking it. It really was, he just didn't want to share.
Yeah. Good point. I
This is
understand
Ed Harris' joint, and no one's going to puff off of it but him.
I'm sure it's special weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a privilege and a really cool experience
I'll
was
bet.
to get to meet and work with him.
Oh man, yeah, one
Mhm.
of the greatest character actors, of all time.
To talk about a moment of vulnerability and
Yeah.
fear.
Mm-hmm.
So this job that I had, a big part of it was trainings, and I would do trainings for, sometimes it'd be the entire lab, which
Okay.
might be 150 people or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have that level of public speaking experience.
Oh,
And
a
I
big
was-
training. Mhm.
Yeah, like doing a big training, and it would be all about this is how transportation works on the mountain. We'd run shuttle services,
Mhm.
and so this is my first year, and my manager, she had just forgotten to tell me
Yeah.
because it was my first year. She was like, "Oh, tomorrow morning." This is at like dinner the night before.
Right.
It's like, tomorrow morning you're doing the transpo training.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, did I tell you that?
You're thinking small group of 5.
I was like, okay, who? Like to the drivers, like
Yeah.
to the drivers and coordinators or whatever. And she's like, no, everybody. Like all advisors will be there, all actors, directors, everyone will be present.
Everyone in the festival.
Everyone in this summer lab is going to be there, and so please prep it. I'll help you in any way. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to throw her under the bus because I absolutely loved her. She really just forgot, and I don't think I slept at all. I couldn't eat. Like then I was absolutely terrified that I had to do this thing. And I get up on stage, and I'm waiting for my turn to give a presentation that's going to be, it's got to be like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Like all the things
wow.
I need to cover.
Yeah.
And I feel myself going faint. Like I've never fainted in my life, and I'm like, this is going to happen.
Did you
and
faint?
well, I didn't. So I did. Yeah, oh my god.
Everyone starts speaking in slow motion.
And then the tunnel vision comes in. Everything fades away.
Yeah.
Well, what it was is I'm looking at the front row, and we're all in this theater. Everyone's piled in. There's people standing on the aisles. Like it's everyone involved.
Yeah.
And Ed Harris is in the front row. Robert
man.
Redford's in the front row.
Oh my goodness.
Catherine Bigelow was there.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm really, it was like tunnel vision. And I did this breathing technique or trick where I put my chin down because I knew blood was rushing out of my head and consciousness was waning. Like, and I survived it, and I put my head down and I breathed. And I like the tingling stopped, the stars kind of went away.
Okay,
I gathered myself and I got up there and I did the training. And it probably, if I did the whole training, it would have taken me 20 minutes. I think I got out of there in about 12. I was talking so fast.
Yeah.
And I think I missed huge gaps, but it was one of the most terrifying experiences I had professionally, where I was like, ooh, this is an area I really need to work on. And another huge motivator was at the end of the summer. So this was probably May. In August, my brother was getting married and I was going to have to do a best man speech. And I was like, this cannot happen again. So my boss, she came up to me and she was like, I am so sorry. You did great, and I won't ask you to do this again. And I was like, actually, I would like the opposite.
Yeah.
May I have any opportunity? Like, if you have, this happens all the time where an announcement had to be made at a dinner or right before a screening or something like that. I was like, can you make me your go-to person for that? Cool. And I mean, I left that conversation also sick to my stomach. I was like, what the fuck did you just ask to do? What? I can't believe you just, but it really, it scrubbed that, that anxiety. I still feel it when I get up and I have a talk in front of a big group,
right?
But the fear of the unknown is no longer there. That's really what it was like when I was on that stage and I was in front of all these people, besides that, some of them being famous and absolute heroes of mine, such as in Robert Redford.
Totally, yeah.
I realized it was like, it's going to be okay. No matter how this goes, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment of growth for me.
Right.
And even just that the growth of saying, like, this is a weak spot. Like, this is a spot that I'm scared of. Like, and I know it's holding me back. And so I need to ask for help. And the help really was, can you put me in more situations and opportunities for me to confront this fear that I have of standing and speaking in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they say that public speaking is, people fear public speaking worse than they fear death.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the, and still is part of the secret to success for the Romero troupe, because you have just average individuals, many of them, most of them, have never been on stage, had never had the benefit of doing any performance as I had, as a kid. And there were many absurd moments where I was performing as a kid, I can tell you that, where we would start giggling and we wouldn't stop giggling. And that was how it went until my pastor just started jamming on the piano and we had to just get on board,
Yeah.
But that is a moment. And I think that's, again, something people learn from being on stage. And it's really important. I would advise that to any parent, to get your child on stage as soon as possible, because confronting that fear and getting past it is, I think, it's just a huge milestone. And I think you can speak to that as well. That it was a big deal for you. So thinking of my own show, how to produce those moments, or and sort of get that magic on camera. Yeah. And maybe seeing the growth of people over time. Maybe some of the folks who appear on the show. Applying what we know to be points of wisdom. That's the benefit of having been around a while. Is you can say, well, I know that's true. Yeah. It might not be easy. Maybe it's not convenient. Yeah. But it's true. So how are we going to do it? We know it works.
Yeah. Do you have any intention or desire to get back in front of the camera or get back up on stage and perform in ways you have in the past?
I love podcasting. I would love to do more of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to pitch it to various people as I go. I love the fact that you've just created this studio here and just are making it work with your hot mic neon sign as well. It's just amazing. And I love all the artwork here in your home. It's just beautiful here in Fort Collins.
Thank you.
I love podcasting, and it is something that I'm looking at Frank the Bunny now and just
Good eye. Good eye.
Podcasting is something from which I have learned a great deal. It's been important to me in the last several years, and I know that it's coming on very strong. And some people say for 2022, I think it was put something like an audio experience is going to be the number one sort of trend for the coming year. Audience experience needs to be audio.
Yeah.
And there's something about a podcast because of the long format, and just you can delve into some things. Speaking of wisdom, that take a few moments to kind of experience or to describe.
Yeah.
Whereas a short 30-second video just is not going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. I found that podcasts have become almost like friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a kind of a weird
I think it's true.
way to say it. Like there are certain podcasts that I rely on that connection on a weekly basis.
Yep.
That it really is comforting to me to rely on. And I guess I wanted to test out and see what my voice is in that space as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been one of the most rewarding creative challenges and expressions that I've ever
How many
done.
episodes now?
You are number 19.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
19 episodes.
Pretty soon it's going to be 190.
Yeah. That's how I see it as well. Is I want to continue to improve, or get better each time. It's gonna be different. This is not the pursuit of perfection in any way.
Yeah.
But I think it's consistency at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like this was the hard work.
Yeah.
Was putting the studio together, and now it's the discipline of sitting down and having these conversations. But I got to say, this is the best part.
Yeah.
This is the part where I get to really kick back and enjoy a good conversation. And the other things around marketing and editing and strategy and everything else to help grow this channel so it has a greater reach, a greater impact. That feels more like work, not work that I avoid or put off, or I certainly enjoy it. This part doesn't feel like work. This is the part that I'm just thrilled every time, especially when it's somebody new coming in. I was excited all day to sit down, talk, and reconnect with you, Kyle. And this has
Thank
been
you. Me too. Yeah.
this has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed it too, and it's it's a sort of you talk about discipline, the discipline of releasing material, producing material consistently. I think that is certainly a key, if not the key, to success in podcasting. You can't miss a week. You've got to get them good to go. Produce them in advance if you need to, and release them on time. But the kind of conversation that you have in a podcast is a sort of disciplined conversation in a way, and there's a certain kind of attention that's put on the words that you're choosing, the way you're going from topic to topic. That's just a little different than just a casual conversation. And sometimes can really just bring out some really interesting facets to the experience that you've had. And kind of like we had there a moment ago, like, oh, wow, I just realized that the Romero Troupe has lessons for this show that I'm doing. So that was like, 20 years later or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you still keep in touch with Jim Walsh and other people in the troupe?
Yeah, I've been in touch with Jim recently. As a matter of fact, kind of stoked our friendship again, and he's still doing the Romero troupe, and I think it's primarily doing similar topics, purpose-driven kind of theater, and recently I know they've done a couple things on the Irish in Leadville. There were sort of paupers' graves there in Leadville that had not been marked. Poor miners had come from Ireland, and Jim's specialty in his academic life is the Irish in America, I think is a good way to put it. And so I think they did some pieces, sort of dramatizing some stories they had known, perhaps, is what I'm envisioning they would do. And they're actually raising money there to create a sort of memorial in Leadville.
Okay.
Where these graves are located, just kind of amidst the trees. It's really interesting. You can just see an indentation where the grave is. There's no marker.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
This is fascinating because I actually lived with Jim Walsh's girlfriend during a period when they were dating.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And got to know him fairly.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, that's how I met him.
That's amazing.
Was I was like, oh, you're dating my roommate. Cool.
Yeah.
And we went to a St. Patty's Day party.
Yeah.
And I'd never experienced anything quite like this. I am of Irish descent.
Yeah.
And I still had the very Americanized, this is how you celebrate St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
And I went to his house
Yeah.
for St. Patty's Day, and there was no kitschy shamrocks hung or anything. It was people in wool sweaters, and it was a full Irish band with fiddles, and it was dancing, traditional Irish dancing. And I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
This is actually the culture, not the strange American celebration.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think that makes me think of the word fetish, and I've been using that term to describe, I guess, what you might say, certain pop culture sort of phenomenon in this country. Like we tend to kind of make a fetish of things and end up sort of objectifying and holding that up. And maybe it originally started, as a good purpose, and maybe there are good purposes around that fetish. But the idea is that by making a fetish of something, like I say, you're sort of objectifying it.
Yeah.
And you're sort of detaching it from the traditions around it. And certainly St. Patty's Day has been made a fetish, and every March becomes, objectified, in a sense that people are separating that, there's, the luck of the Irish, or is this all the cute little myths, and stories, but they're not associating it with the struggle to survive, and the immigrant struggle, which is so real and very important. I'll bring up another subject just because I find it fascinating, is this idea that the concept of whiteness in America, and how certain groups were not considered white, that now it's sort of unquestioned.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, like Italians, maybe even the Irish as well, were not considered white. That's worth sort of exploring, and it's something I need to do more of. I haven't really explored that as much. Like, what is that concept of white? And, theoretically, is it possible for everyone to be white? Can it be? Someone said to me recently, well, let's say, now, theoretically, America's position of power is diminished by, theoretically, civil war, secession. These things are on the table now, right? So let's say something like that happens, and then China ascends to a position of dominance. Do we all become white? And they're against the Chinese?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm certainly out of my depth here in this regard, but I'm just kind of speculating live on podcast.
I like it. You're exploring ideas.
And I'm sure some of our listeners could probably, school us a bit, but it's something interesting to consider, how that concept of whiteness changes, and do you want to expand it, or do you want to change the discussion altogether? And how do other nations handle this? That would also be interesting. I've lived abroad a total of 6 months, but I know other folks who, have really in-depth experience in far-flung cultures would have a different point of view of what that's all about.
Well, I've always, this is an interesting area that we're exploring, and I've always felt a little odd around when maybe you're seeing something that's racially insensitive, or you're seeing a piece of film or reading a piece of literature that is showing history, the history of our nation, and people will kind of be like, "Ooh, feeling my white guilt right now." And I've never quite felt it. I've really had a lot of pride in my family history, and I'm always like, well, for me, I was like, well, my family got here in 1909. Like, we just got here, and I don't feel the same guilt around slavery. Because all of my family and ancestors were too busy being persecuted by the English.
Right.
And really overcoming struggles where they came from, and overcoming oppression and corruption, and so it's not that I completely, like, that I don't understand it. It was I felt like maybe I'm not feeling the white guilt the same way you are. And I've read some, and I've seen a few films that kind of depict this, like Gangs of New York come to mind, where the Irish are coming off the boats, and they are not welcome, and they are not given jobs. A lot of them are immediately signed up for military service, and they go and fight in the Civil War for the Union. It was a very strange time, and you're right, they weren't. I don't know how exactly they were seen, but it wasn't as equals. And I'm not in any way comparing the struggle of what slavery did to African Americans, and I mean Africans that then became Americans.
We use those terms kind of loosely. I mean, how do you quantify suffering and pain? And everybody comes at this from their own place. You know, that it takes a lot. I think it takes a certain amount of grace. You should come at it with a certain amount of grace and forgiveness and a sense of humor. That we're all trying to make a difference in our own way, and trying to understand things. And I think that's all you can really hope for in many ways. And when I think of some of what I'm dealing with, I'm sorry to bring the show up again, but it's something I think about.
Please do.
It's that, when you're looking at people who are afraid, they're angry, they're hurt, they're maybe misbehaving in ways that they wouldn't behave at their best if their best self was on display, you could say. You don't really want to shame them, try to shame them to change. That doesn't work. If you do that, you're just going to drop their defenses, and there's no way anything's going to happen. You've got to really love them into it, and that may sound corny, but that's really what it's about. You've got to show love, and as you're dealing with these issues of pain and suffering and immigrant experience or minority experience, you've got to come at it from this position of love as much as you can. Sometimes you're overcome by anger, frustration, whatever, defensiveness, but try to return to that because, because it's just difficult, and it takes a certain kind of forgiveness,
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to hear where this project goes, how it evolves, what kind of traction that you're getting, and I would love to have you back in when when it feels like it's the right time, and discuss it further.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that it has been a focal point in this conversation, because it sounds like it's something that we need right now.
Yeah, I think so. I'm surprised it did become a focal point in a way, because I wasn't planning on talking about it much, but it has been an important part of my life, kind of subterraneanly, in a way, in a subterranean level, you could say.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that's tying a lot of loose ends together, and like I say, sort of completing the circle.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting, and I think I'm just really pumped about the energy I feel around it, and I speak to my friends, including yourself. You know, I'm always gathering different insights, and I think it's all going to go. At times, it just felt so huge. It just felt like it's so big. You know, this involves so many issues about which sometimes I know very little. You know, it's just trying to pull those people in and try to do your best to pull in those points of wisdom, as opposed to maybe the cliche, experiences or the cliche thoughts, but say, we're not going to, this is going to be something that may disorient you.
Yeah.
It may be hard to understand. We want it to be somewhat challenging in that way. So hopefully we're successful. We'll see.
I think we need to be challenged right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Get vulnerable, get out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's where growth happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I said it to someone recently. We're going to put America in therapy and hope for the best.
Hey, I'm pro therapy. I think there's so many benefits that come out of it, and I think we could all use it.
I hope it works out. We'll see how it goes, but we're certainly getting after it. That's for sure.
Kyle, this has been fantastic.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for coming in and talking with me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good.
This has been Hot Mike, and we're out.